And we're back with more of the Shacknews Awards 2023. Surprise! No, that's what we're talking about here. Biggest surprise of the year 2023. I'm going to list our nominees, and then we'll get into it. It's heavy on Nintendo. Spoiler alert. So we're going to start with Star Ocean, the second story R, lovely RPG that dropped this year. Another nominee, RoboCop Rogue City, an FPS game that I think surprised everyone with just how fun it is. The Legend of Zelda movie announcement surprised some people. The announcement and release in the same year of Super Mario RPG Remake was a surprise. During the exact same Nintendo Direct, Nintendo announced Super Mario Bros. Wonder, a brand new 2D side-scrolling Mario platformer. And then on September 14th, 2023, during a Nintendo Direct, kind of in the middle of it, Nintendo showed the Blue Falcon from F-Zero on SNES. And many of us were just thinking, oh, they're gonna try to resell SNES F-Zero somehow. You know, I've bought it on Virtual Console several times. But no! They made a brand new game. And I think some people debated that at first. This is a brand new game that is inspired by the SNES F-Zero. F-Zero 99. The ultimate Battle Royale racing game. On Nintendo Switch Online. No one expected this at all. But, you know, these are your nominees. Let's get to it. I figure we'll save F-Zero 99 for last. TJ, would you like to talk about Star Ocean, the second story R?
There are so many like RPGs out there that I played during the formative years of my life where I like wonder if anyone really cared about them as much as I did. And it was so validating to see Star Ocean 2 getting a remake and then see so many people just thrilled out of their minds over it because like that is that is one of the few JRPGs that I would say is ridiculously long, and yet I've still like 100%ed it multiple times. And I love that game. I love how much polish they poured into the remake. Like the sheer amount of upgrades in the art, the 2D HD style using the 2D sprites and the 3D environments, the music being more beautiful than ever. It's just so good, and I'm so happy that it happened, and I couldn't have seen it coming from a mile away.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, on to RoboCop Rogue City. This game, I don't. We've been covering it for what, almost a year or two. I remember when we dropped that first trailer on Facebook, Denny. It exploded. A ton of people were very excited just to see that IP be brought to like an FPS game, right?
Yeah, it was pretty impressive to see. Kind of coming out of nowhere with the idea of just making RoboCop work in the FPS kind of realm and bringing that version of a futuristic Detroit. Um, Pretty cool. I think that they leaned into you being RoboCop, and it paid off. Was quite impressed, surprisingly, because there's a lot of times you see some of the IP or some of these kind of games, where you get that kind of a feeling like, I hope this isn't a cash grab or something.
Yeah.
But the team actually really did put in some solid work here to make it something that was interesting, and we kind of saw that from some of the trailers that were coming out, and just how in depth that some of that stuff was. So, yeah, pretty big surprise on that end.
I love that you can do mundane cop tasks like write
Yeah.
parking tickets. Like those, like the little things that they added to the game really, I don't know, just it was surprising and silly and funny. And for a long time, movie adaptations to games were not great. And you're right, a lot of them were cash grabs. So this one, it was surprising to see how good it turned out. And I think a lot of people were expecting it to be kind of lame, and it wasn't. So I think part of the surprise is just how good of a game it was.
Yeah, to
Uh,
emphasize what Denny had said on it already, just like their attention to detail was like staggering. Like with the sound effects, with the locations, they got all the likeness rights for most of the characters. Like I've gone through the police station; it's almost 1-to-1. Like it is, they really did like go all out, and like more importantly, like they kept it small. A lot of people were complaining that it wasn't a fully open world game, but like they understood their scope and their budget and didn't overshoot. And that's why the game was just like surprisingly just so good for a game that probably would have been terrible. Like, I mean, RoboCop, he moves like a train. You know what I mean? He moves so slow. He's like a slug.
oh yeah,
You know, like how are you going to make that fun? But it ends up being really fun, and
it's
everything.
fun
And
because when you get shot as RoboCop, you don't die.
you don't. Yeah, you just take it. Yeah,
It's like
just
ping, ping, ping. Yeah, stuff like that. They a good video game like that needs to make you feel like a badass, and RoboCop Rogue City does that in spades. So a solid nomination for sure. A separate kind of, this is an interesting nomination here because we're nominating the announcement of a movie, but the fact that The Legend of Zelda is being made into a live action film is surprising alone. Maybe not if you look at it in the context of the success of the Super Mario Bros. Movie, but the fact that they're working with Sony on this is very interesting. I don't know if Donovan, you want to chime in on this at all, but yeah, this was a pretty big announcement. I think we were covering earnings when it happened, and I just stopped everything at Shacknews. I like hit the red button, the Shacknews assembly line stopped, and I was like, everybody,
stop the presses.
there's a Zelda movie. Get to the internet. Let them know immediately.
Yeah, and I don't think it's the existence of a Zelda movie that's surprising. Like I think coming off the success of the Mario film, we knew that was going to happen. But it's two things. One, it's the fact that it's live action, which yet to be seen if that'll end up being a good decision or not. And then the fact that they're co-producing it with Sony, of all studios, kind of completely zagging after working with Universal on the Mario film to team up with Avi Arad and Sony Pictures. Given the history between Nintendo and Sony, there's just so much to dig into with just that announcement that I don't think anybody saw that coming. So,
And then even during the announcement, it came out that Sony had pitched Nintendo on the Mario movie. So these conversations had been going on for like 6 years. So to hear that Nintendo had taken meetings with Sony for that long, it's just interesting. And you look at it in the context of that story about Microsoft potentially acquiring Nintendo and Nintendo laughing them out of the room. It's an interesting dichotomy here to see how Nintendo and Microsoft were behaving with each other and how Nintendo and Sony are acting with each other. Because I do think if Nintendo was to ever be acquired, it would have to be Sony. There's no way in hell that the government of Japan would let an American company buy Nintendo. So this is a huge deal for the future of both of these companies. And I'm glad that it's not, oh, they just bought Nintendo. It's a 50-50 split of the cost of the production and the revenues that are going to come from it. So I think it's a big deal for people who have been a part of the games industry for a long time to see Nintendo and Sony working together on a joint venture. I do think that was the surprise.
It's also interesting because how these things normally work is like for Nintendo specifically is they'll talk to multiple studios and they'll all give them their pitch and then they choose which one they like the best, right? Who like whatever idea they thought was most interesting. So obviously Sony won that debate because I'm sure they met with Universal too. Maybe it was the fact that it was live action, but no, yeah, the Sony thing is definitely a surprise because they have a track record of their movies being fantastic, like the core Spider-Man movies, and then movies that are terrible, all the spin-off Spider-Man movies. So it's very weird, very, very hit or miss.
Yeah, that's true.
David, were you about to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say prediction. Nintendo announces a partnership with Sony, and then at the last second, goes back and announces a partnership with Panasonic or Philips, whoever it was.
Oh no!
Igniting the console wars anew.
They thought you forgot, but they didn't. It was all a ruse. It was to get back at them.
No 3DO. I'm actually, you know what? You're getting a gavel for even mentioning it.
I earned
You're
it.
overruled.
I wanted it, and I earned it. That's fine.
You are overruled, sir. May God have mercy on your soul for even putting that out in the universe. The console war is over. Ray Star Wars ended the Star War and the console war. It was great. It was great. You should go watch that movie. But congratulations to all the beneficiaries of the console war. No, but it's a weird announcement. That's
Yeah,
just
I do agree
surprising.
with Donovan on the fact that I mean I feel like a lot of people thought animation was coming,
Yeah,
especially after seeing as how great the Mario movie went. But it being live action and then thinking about like them having to cast these roles, it's a whole lot. I did not think they would be going that route this early on, but hey,
I think it's
could be.
cool. And I do think that Nintendo's diversifying who they're working with on film and TV is what this is a sign of, which means that they're probably going to do more.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
know, I have a feeling, just an inkling, that we may get a new Mario movie. Just a thought. And
Perhaps.
I imagine Illumination will probably be doing that. So
Probably.
if they're busy with that, they want to make a Zelda movie. This is the logic. Like, it makes sense. They're going to have to work with other studios. But I think this is a huge deal for Nintendo because it shows that like film is it's not necessarily the future of the company, but it is certainly a new growth vector that they've never had before.
It's one of their
That
pillars,
yeah,
right? Like it's a new pillar. Yeah.
it's a new pillar, but it's one that is not cyclical like consoles are, David, right? So it's
Mhm,
like a
mhm.
huge difference for their business model going forward. And I
It
think,
also adds more to the theme park side and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
You got more
yeah,
opportunity, more character and IP to
like
put out there.
there should be like some sort of Zelda shooting gallery at Nintendo World or something. Like they just think of the different things they could do with that IP. I know next year we're getting Donkey Kong expansion in Japan, but yeah, probably gonna get a Zelda expansion down the road. And then what we saw with the Mario movie, that it literally affected sales of older Mario games. The same thing's gonna happen with Zelda whenever that goes down the road too. So we're in the infancy of this new division of Nintendo, and I just think it's exciting to see them continue to take risk because they had been so risk averse for a large part of their history. On to the next announcement that was quite a surprise. Super Mario RPG received a remake, and it was announced at the June Nintendo Direct. It was just one of the Mario announcements at that Direct. And I remember, like, before we were done being excited about the remake announcement, bam, here's Super Mario Wonder. And I saw Elephant Mario, and I completely forgot about Mario RPG because Elephant Mario was this glorious viral moment that's still going on, honestly. Uh, I think both of these games were a surprise, but David, I think you were very, very happy to see a new 2D Mario.
This made my day because as much as I loved both Super Mario Maker games, and I think we'll see more, the
Mhm.
problem is that eventually when the majority of people stop creating and uploading, the selection devolves into like auto scrollers and Kaizo levels. And I love my meat and potatoes Nintendo 2D Mario games. And
Mhm.
that I would have been fine if this was like Super Mario World 2, 3 actually. And I think it is in a way. I think it is a spiritual successor to Mario World. It's the most inventive it's been. We can get into this in another category, but this really did surprise me because the last time they stopped making Mario games, they waited 10 years to make a new 2D Mario. With mixed results, I'd say. So yeah, this is by far one of my favorite announcements of the year.
And the game itself is just full of surprises. The
Yes.
wonder mechanic is a surprising thing. And like at the core of Nintendo is to surprise and delight players. That game is just their mission statement. Every single level. And
I look forward to it.
they go so goddamn hard in this game too, man. Like they didn't have to go this hard. They could have maybe done a wonder mechanic every 3 levels. No, every level has a wonder flower. Every single one is unique and different. There's different music. The sound design is like just this game's outstanding. And
Yeah.
no one knew it was coming. So
No,
like,
I would have been much less surprised if they'd announced a new 3D Mario because they've been doing that for a while, right? Like that would track. But again, returning to 3D and making it, I think, as inventive as Odyssey was for the
yeah.
last 3D Mario game, is really, really cool. You can tell what that team has been up to, and they deserve all the flowers.
Yeah. And in any other year, I'd agree with you.
Mm.
But this year, we got F-Zero 99. And I mean, come on. Here's the definition of surprise. An unexpected or astonishing event, fact, or thing. And I can't... Did anyone... please, let me know.
No.
Anyone here expect a new F-Zero game
I'll
in
go one
2023?
further. I thought that IP. I never wanted to say this to you, Asif, but I thought that IP was dead and buried, and I wasn't like celebrating. I just was like, look at Mario Kart 8 DX. Like, why would they ever go back to any other racing IP? Especially because they've been very numbers oriented for a little while, right? But this IP coming back just blew my mind. I was very,
And it's
very
like,
surprised.
David, and anyone here, if you talk to me for enough amount of time over the last, I don't know, I've been at Shacknews for almost 10 years. If you talk to me about games for an extended period of time, at some point, I would bring up how they could reboot F-Zero, right? And almost every time, I talked about online play, and even later on, a concept of a death race, battle royale. And we basically got that. So for us to get this thing that I've been obviously shouting at the clouds about for a decade, like, that's just weird. I was so freaked out by this announcement that I thought I might have died, and this was some sort of, my brain is just playing a simulation to make me happy for a little bit. But I was like, this can't be real. I had to like call people. I was like, I went and bought the newspaper and I looked at it. I'm like, are we sure that this is real?
What's the date today? Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, this can't be real. But it was. And it is. And it is a delight. And for F-Zero fans, like, it's been amazing. Like, it's rejuvenated all dozen of us. No, like, there's a lot of us. There's more than 99 of us.
More than 99.
There's actually tens of thousands of people playing an F-Zero game every day right now. And that's just awesome. Like, they didn't have to do this. And Miyamoto said, I don't know what we could do that is new, several years ago. And it really feels like there was a skunk corp inside of Nintendo that was like, you know what? We're going to just show you. And they like built this little thing and they brought it to him. They're like, here's something new that we can do with F-Zero. And they did it. Like, this had been rumored. You know, I'm inside of every possible F-Zero Discord, subreddit, Twitter, wherever. This had been rumored for years. I don't know if you remember the original NX rumor. F-Zero NX was rumored then.
Yeah.
And we never got it. And to your point, it was dead. But what I want to tell fans of random anything, the Cleveland Cavaliers won the NBA Finals in 2016.
It's true.
And F-Zero 99 exists in 2023. Anything is possible. Anything. Just gonna let you know. And while all these other nominees, I think, are fine and dandy, nothing holds a candle to how ridiculous of a surprise F-Zero 99 is in this year. There's nothing. So I know we have to vote, but come on.
All I'm picturing is that meme from the guy in front of the whiteboard, and if all the F-Zero chats also saying, no, it's going to come out this year. See, look, all these things, there's this F in this trailer, and that means that this year it's coming out, I'm telling you.
No. We're not Bed Bath & Beyond shareholders, Greg.
Okay.
We were grounded in reality. We understood that we had been just beaten down. There was a moment in time during the Wii U era when Nintendo Land shipped with this dog shit mini game F-Zero game. Does anyone remember that?
Yes, I remember you complaining about it. That's what I remember.
But like when they did that, we were like, see? They remember us. And then just this little moment earlier this year when I'm watching the Mario film and I'm in, we're all in Mario's bedroom watching him, and you look on the right and there's a freaking F-Zero poster hanging there. And he's playing Kid Icarus. And there's an R-Wing on top of the TV. And there's a pro wrestling sign. And there's all these different references to old Nintendo IP. They didn't have to put that in there. And it's just like, hey, they remember us. And if you think back to the SNES days, Captain Falcon was kind of created to be a mascot for Nintendo. And there's a rumor that maybe this next Switch is going to be called Super Nintendo Switch. What a great time to revive this IP. When there's 132 million Switches in the world, there's 39 million people subscribed to Nintendo Switch Online. This is the time. If there was a time to try to reboot this game, it's now.
It couldn't happen in any other era, I would say.
Yeah.
Maybe the Wii era could have happened, but this one, like, with the install size of the Switch, they could bring back any moribund IP, and I think that a lot of people would try it. I think that's probably what's happening. Like, F-Zero fans are ecstatic, but there are a lot of people playing an F-Zero game for the first time.
They are. There's completely new people being introduced to this. There's musicians that are like, oh my god, this soundtrack's amazing. I'm going to do covers of all of these songs. There's a whole generation that is now experiencing F-Zero for the first time. And they're like, wow, it's a real racing game that actually tests your skill, as opposed to if you can land a blue shell. So like, I think racing skill, this is the best Nintendo game we've seen in a really long time. And to people out there, if you're a Snow Bros fan, or if you're an Ice Climbers fan, or if you're a Kid Icarus fan,
1080.
If you're a fan of Adventures of Lolo, if you're, any Beautiful Joe, like, never give up. Your game could be rebooted.
Come on, Star
It's
Fox.
possible. Even Star Fox.
It's gonna come back.
Wow.
I'm telling you.
Again.
Look,
Yeah.
how are you going to deny it, Greg? I know you're a cynical bastard at times, but like, how are you going to deny that F-Zero 99 opens the door for so many forgotten IP? 1080 snowboarding, Diddy Kong Racing, Wave
Golden
Race,
Sun.
Golden Sun,
Yeah.
Earthbound. Like, there's so much IP on the table that Nintendo's like, oh, maybe we could do something with this someday. Like, Kid Icarus Uprising was a great game on a bad hardware device for it. I would love to see a new Kid Icarus Uprising, but like, my point is never give up. Anything can happen.
To Greg's point, they tried Star Fox again in Wii U, and it didn't go well. But they could try it again.
You never go out of the cockpit. That's the rule. That would be like getting out of the cockpit in F-Zero and walking around. Don't do that.
No. Star Fox Adventures was great.
That was Star Fox Adventures, and that was not a bad game,
I
Greg.
don't remember. I remember that. I barely remember that game.
You are overruled.
I will mention that, like, also F-Zero 99 is not what I expected to see, because like, I figured if we were going to get anything, Toshihiro Nagoshi has mentioned several times. He was one of the executive producers on GX. He has mentioned several times that he would have loved to have returned to that series. Like, he said it this year, and he said it previous years. I thought eventually we were going to get like a Bomb Rush Cyberpunk F-Zero from him.
I was not surprised, just because Asif talked about it so much. There, like, almost every other Shackcast, he talked about not only would F-Zero return, but it would return in more or less this form, which is the only reason I'm not surprised. I'm like, well, he fucking called it.
I also called one other thing, that I would be too old to be good at it when it came out, and here we are. Still haven't won that game. Still haven't won that game. Love it. I'm happy being just in the race. I'm happy to be one of those people you're racing. So if you see Earl Divix out on the streets of F-Zero, tip your cap to him, because he's there to help you win.
I would love so much if we found out that your interview with Tim Sweeney is what gave them an idea for this game, and then like years later it comes out, we saw this interview on this gaming website, so we thought we'd try it. He had a good idea, so we just ran with it.
Look, if you think I have not talked to Nintendo PR about F-Zero, you're out of your mind. Like, there's an email between me and the head of their PR from 2020.
They have it framed.
It's maybe the most cursed email I've ever sent, because I said, looking forward to trying out the new Nintendo Switch F-Zero game at E3 2020.
Ooh, yeah.
And I know how cursed that sounds now, but at the time, I'm going to reply to him with my F-Zero 99 review and be like, hey, good work. No, it's awesome. And yeah, I don't know if I influenced this at all. I if I did, awesome. If I didn't, I don't really care. I'm just happy it happened. But I do think that you can speak things into existence, and I do think the F-Zero community, with the hashtag Operation Mute City and the hashtag Revive F-Zero, we spent about a decade bothering Nintendo about this, and we would get these breadcrumbs, like F-Zero, F-Zero being referenced in like a Smash trailer. I don't know if you remember the Min Min trailer for Smash. She's working at a ramen shop, and Kirby and Captain Falcon are in there eating. I would love to just have a TV show about Kirby and Captain Falcon getting lunch together, but there were like these moments, and obviously it was usually around Captain Falcon, but there are these moments where we're like, hey, they do care about this IP still. Like, they didn't have to include Captain Falcon in that scene. They chose to, right? And you can go back to Evos. How many Evos have you heard the theme from Big Blue? Every single one. Like, it's just, even though the game was dead, the franchise lived on in these very weird ways. And I do think the community had something to do with this. There's a track now. You can look at F-Zero 99 happen. What happened before this? F-Zero X shipped to Nintendo Switch Online. That's my favorite F-Zero game. And it had online play. And a lot of the F-Zero Discords and stuff, we were all talking like, hey, if we show them that we're playing this, they may actually use that data. And I do think Nintendo is that analytical when it comes to stuff. They're like, this is how many people played this game. This is the addressable market for this thing. Not to mention, David, your point about Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, it's maybe the best racing game ever. It's like one of them. And their engine is excellent.
Yeah.
Like, why not make more games with different IP using that tech? It seems like inevitable, right? Like, and that's why I'm like, let's open the door for Diddy Kong Racing and like all of those classic racing games that Nintendo's made. Like, I don't know if it's ever possible, but like RC Pro-Am, that would be cool to see. Or like a new Rad Racer. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many things that we could do. I think F-Zero 99 is the beginning of something. I am worried. I will say this. I worry every day that they'll take it away from me. Because they did that with Mario 35.
But they announced that ahead of time, right? They said this is a limited time thing.
Yeah, but they didn't with Pac-Man 99, and then they took Pac-Man 99 away from us.
That's true.
So that's the fear now. And that's why I play it every day, because I don't know. I don't know when it'll disappear. But for now, what a surprise, what a delightful thing. And yeah, we should get to voting.
Do you think Pac-Man was a licensing thing? Like, Nintendo owns F-Zero, so in theory, they don't have to pull it, right? Like,
and also to your point, Tetris 99 hasn't disappeared. So I think it's a function of, and they don't own Tetris, they just have a good relationship with Tetris. So I don't know what caused the Pac-Man game to go away.
I did want to give an honorable mention, because Ozzy can't be here to do it, to Super Mario RPG. Only because, like, if Ozzy has a multi-feature story about what went into the creation of Super Mario RPG, and if you've read it, it is like it will explain fully why this remake was so unlikely in the first place. It was a strong combination of experienced Nintendo and Squaresoft talent at the time that came together to make this masterpiece of Mario lore and Square Enix RPG design. And like, to their credit, they put a young director in charge of this remake at Nintendo, and they got back as much of the talent as they could, and they knocked it out of the park, from what Ozzy had to say.
Yeah, and I think you have to look at the whole life cycle of the Switch and Square's relationship with Nintendo in that time, right? Like, we got Octopath and Octopath 2. Like, they ported over Final Fantasy 7. Like, Final Fantasy 7 finally shipped on the Nintendo console this generation. So I feel like some of those barriers that were created during the N64 era were knocked down before opening the door to this. I don't think this would have happened. I really think that what we saw this year from Nintendo would not have happened if the Switch wasn't a success, of the size of a success that it was today. And it speaks to the timing of why they released F-Zero 99 this year. And obviously they needed Mario games. I remember when the Mario movie came out, we were all like, it's kind of weird that they don't have like a Mario game to sell right now. But then by the fall, we have 2. And then there's Mario and Luigi next year, and Princess Peach is getting her game next year. But at the time that the Mario movie shipped, it felt odd. Like, at the time, we had no idea what was coming out in the back half of the year for Nintendo, because they're kind of cagey about that. But then in June, it became super clear. It was like, oh, we're getting Wonder and RPG. Both of them are excellent. But yeah, you're right. Sorry, go ahead, Greg.
I will say that Mario RPG was such a surprise that not even the original game director knew it was being made.
Mhm.
The original guy who made the not one feedback, no look at, nope, just they did it all outside him, which was a little odd, I thought. Considering the game's nearly 1-to-1, right? Also, if you've played most of some of it more than I have, it's like 1-to-1. I've never played the original, so I don't know.
It's practically 1-to-1.
Okay.
I'll say more
Yeah,
about
pretty much
this in the remake category, but they had a roadmap to follow. So.
It's not 100% 1-to-1.
Not 100%, but
No, not 100%.
And obviously they changed some of the characters' names.
yeah.
The end game, I guess the post game is different.
Most games all brand new.
Yeah, that's like a completely new experience. So it's
Yeah,
like
that was.
yeah. So I think it's a little bit of both. It's kind of like RE4, in that sense, where they did straight up change some stuff in RE4, I guess, but like I don't know, for the better, I guess is kind of the argument. I don't know if Clay Morton is necessarily better than Mac the Knife, but yeah. Let's vote. Can we vote? Can we get this out of the way already? What are we even doing? So biggest surprise. Sam voted for F-Zero 99. My man. I'll vote. I'll kick it off with me. I'm voting for F-Zero 99. Greg?
Yeah, like Austin's been saying it for 10 years. It's gonna happen, and I'm happy it happened. So I'll definitely say F-Zero 99.
TJ?
I think if F-Zero 99 hadn't come out this year, it would have been Super Mario RPG, but this was a good stacked year for surprises.
It really
F-Zero
was.
99.
And Nintendo brought 4 nominees to the table this year. Bill?
F-Zero 99, 100%.
Steve? My man, Steve Tendo.
Yeah, you're gonna be mad at me. As much as I want to give this to Mario RPG because I never expected a Mario RPG, I gotta give this to the Zelda movie because I never expected Nintendo to be so, like, let someone else make one of their babies.
You're surprised. You're more surprised that they're making a Zelda movie after the Mario movie made $1.36 billion than you are that an F-Zero game came out in the year of our Lord 2023.
Yeah,
Okay.
honestly, I'm more surprised that a Zelda movie didn't get made before a Mario movie because Nintendo sometimes loves Zelda more than Mario.
Oh, I think they love Mario a lot more than Zelda.
It's close.
In terms of story beats, I can see Steve's point. Like, I'm not surprised the Mario movie came out first, but to Steve's point, I think Zelda lore lends itself to, a story-rich movie.
Fair. All right, Demi.
I went into this wanting to go with Zelda as well because the live action surprises was not something I saw coming. But after such a spirited session here from Asif, preaching about F-Zero 99, I think I've heard the gospel clearly. I'm gonna have to go with that one.
Nice.
F-Zero 99 on that one for the surprise.
Appreciate the vote, David. You've heard me talk about this stupid thing forever, and it finally happened.
And it finally happened. That's why I'm voting F-Zero 99. Also, I'm very happy that now new generations of children will know that Captain Falcon is not just that guy who wears spandex in Smash Brothers, right? I think that's worth celebrating.
And he's not even the best character in the series.
Right.
Like, finally. Donovan, what you got?
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever been so excited on somebody else's behalf for a game reveal as I was for F-Zero 99, so that is my vote for sure.
Hell yeah. I mean, it's just... Like, if you talk about the least likely thing out of this list, are we really that surprised that 2 Mario games came out the year that there was a Mario movie? No, not really. Am I that surprised that a Zelda movie is being made. No, but I'm the guy who 10 years ago made a video about how Nintendo was going to make a push into film and it was going to make them a lot of money. So like maybe I was just right. But I understand how you could be surprised by the Zelda movie. Like
the Sony angle is surprising too.
I think
right?
the Sony angle is super surprising.
Yeah.
And I think the live action is super surprising. So there's 2 surprises there. But I got 99 surprises for you. F-Zero 99 wins. Biggest surprise, 2023. Hallelujah.